The Battle of Midway was the turning point of the war in the Pacific. A new torpedo bomber entered combat with VT-8. It was not the most auspicious debut for the Grumman TBF Avenger, but its obsolete predecessor, the TBD Devastator, was literally hacked from the air by Japanese fighters. Not only was this new product from Grumman Iron Works more capable, but it could perform a number of attack missions, including dive bombing, ground support, and anti-shipping, and it could carry far more ordnance to the target. Its crew of 3 had the latest state-of-the-art equipment, including sea search radar. In our past Roaring Glory Warbird programs, we featured bombers of the Army Air Corps. So I guess it's time I took you along to fly the Navy's most capable World War II shipboard bomber, the Grumman Avenger. This single-engine monster was so effective that even General Motors was drafted to build more of them, until the total production run for both Grumman and General Motors reached 9,836 Avengers. Even though the Avenger was flown by a single pilot, it took 3 men to make it an effective combat aircraft. Along with the pilot, the gunner manned the turret at the end of the long canopy, and the bombardier radar operator sat in the belly of the beast. After World War II, TBMs were used as CODs, carrier onboard delivery aircraft for the Navy, and many were eventually converted for use as borate fire bombers and pest control sprayers. Former President Bush even flew a TBM off the carrier San Jacinto during World War II, and this aircraft is painted in his colors and markings. As we first started our pre-flight, we can see how big this airplane really is. Standing next to this airplane, we got a 13-foot, 1-inch diameter propeller, Hamilton standard. Looking up at the engine, 14-cylinder, 2,600 cubic inch Wright Cyclone R2600. It develops 1,900 horsepower. So on our pre-flight, we're just looking at general condition of the engine, and we're looking for oil leaks, inspecting the inlet for the oil cooler, inspect the inlet for the carburetor duct on top, propeller governor located on top, propeller for leaks. And another thing we're looking for, the condition of the engine, we're looking for the cylinder heads and the barrels where they join together. We're looking for oil leaks there because the engine can be leaking oil there, which indicates that the heads are loose. So as we carry around the right side of the aircraft here, we're inspecting the exhaust system. We're looking for cracks, looking for signs of leakage. The cowl flaps, we're looking for security and attachment. And also, as you can see, a typical radial engine, you know, the airplane, and through just the laws of gravity, will leak oil on the ground and out the bottom of cylinders. So, but we're looking for excessive leakage, like something that's running out or dripping out of these vent lines. We're looking for fuel stains. Normally, other than a stream of oil here and there, the airplane should be, you know, pretty clean from any major oil leaks. This is where the external power would be hooked up if we ever needed it, if our battery was low. And anyway, a landing gear over on this side. We're looking for the strut for proper extension. We need at least 2 or 3 fingers there to make sure we got enough air in the strut. We're looking for signs of leakage on the brake, condition of the flex hoses, condition of the tire. This is the micro switch that tells us that the landing gear, the 2 arms have come down over center and locked, and this is the lock arm. It clicks the switch, so we're condition of the wires and just overall general condition of the landing gear, any signs of hydraulic leakage. And as we move over here to the wing fold, this is a very unique part of this airplane is the wing fold system, and you can see how the wings pivot at this spot here and this spot here, and the forward front spar attach point here. And as you can see, the way the wing will come out and join right up here with a hydraulic lock cylinder. So when we're doing a pre-flight, we've got a lot of things to look at. Part of this design is the fact that the aileron flight control cables don't change tension at all, so they're held in one spot the whole time. So there's these pulley brackets, the cables are all visible. We've got our hydraulic cylinders. You see there's 2 cylinders, and this is how they make that 90-degree join there. So we've got flex lines, we've got solid lines, and we've got our wing lock cylinder. So we're inspecting it all for general condition. It's evidence of any chafing or any problems with the mechanism. This little unit here is the landing gear up lock. As the gear retracts, catches the roller, holds the gear in the up position right there. As we walk down the right wing, we stopped to inspect the slots here. And what this is aerodynamic slot designed so when the airplane approaches a stall, it continues to flow air over the ailerons to give them good control up to the stall. And also we're looking at the ailerons, general condition. They're fabric covered, the standard World War II issue type flight control surface. Also the wing, rivets, signs of any distress. There's another unique feature with the Avenger is this cable, and this is for storing the airplane on the ground while the wings are in the folded position. The hydraulics fold the wings back, and for parking we put a safety cable there, so when the hydraulics bleed off, then the wings won't be bumping into anything. So anyway, and as we continue down on this, the inboard side of the airplane, enter the inside area of the wing here, we're looking for the same kind of things we did before, just general condition of things. Look inside the flap well, looking for anything out of place or any bird nests or anything unusual. Then we're going to climb up the side of the fuselage and climb 15 feet in the air to get up here. Top the Avenger, we're going to check the fuel cap. This is the right main fuel tank. Here's 90 gallons of fuel. Just going to visually inspect, make sure we got fuel in there, obviously. Canopies for security. The rear seat position latch, make sure the canopy's definitely latched. We don't want that opening up on us in flight. Life raft compartment, make sure it's snap closed. And the turret, secure. And we'll work our way down the side of the fuselage. This is the aft entrance door here. If we look up inside, we can see the ball turret. If he had to make his escape by parachute, he would exit the turret, grab his parachute, and then come out this door. The battery is located in the aft here too, and it's connected, and the vent lines are hooked to it. And everything looks good. Make our way back here to the tail. We're checking for free and easy motion. Look how big they are. That's why the controls are so heavy on an Avenger. Fabric covering, trim tabs. On the rudder here, we're going to check this. This is a boost tab here. It moves in opposite directions, as you can see, to try to lighten the forces of the rudder. And I'm glad they've got it, even though I wish it had 2 of them on it. And the same thing on this elevator. Free motion, everything nice and tight. As the history books tell us, Leroy Grumman got the idea of folding wings from watching birds take off and land. Well, now that we've made it up here, another interesting feature that the Grumman Avenger has is 2 sliding canopy heads. Seems like a normal procedure, but we're used to flying airplanes with it open fully with no restriction at top, so guess what? We don't know anybody who's flown this haven't hit their head up on top of there as they're getting in or out. Once inside, the Avenger is pretty roomy, and actually it needed to be. As you know, every mission in this thing could have exceeded 5, 6, 7 hours even because of the fuel capacity and its normal mission. So get strapped in here. Okay, you can see our flight controls. The rudder pedals are all as needed, and there's the brake pedals. They're nice and stiff, got good brakes. Shoulder harness, and this is a standard World War II military type harness. And it may look complicated, but it's really quite comfortable once you get, a nice fitting seat cushion or parachute. Okay, and before we start now, we'll go around the cockpit and kind of review everything, make sure that the airplane's ready to go. Starting on the left side of the cockpit, our tail wheel's unlocked. Emergency fuel pump, electric pump is off. Rudder trim is set, elevator trim is set, aileron trim is set. Our tail hook right here is in the lock position. Got a throttle crack, mixtures in idle, cut off, superchargers in low, prop is full increase, magneto switches are off, landing gear handle is down and latched, flaps are neutral, oil cooler doors are wide open, cowl flaps are open, bomb doors are selected to the closed position, the wings are in the spread and the safety latch is locked. Okay, moving over to the right side, we can see our electrical panel over here. We turn a battery switch on, confirm we have a green light, landing gear is down and safe. Fuel quantity checks with our visual inspection. Okay, we're ready to go. And we give our brakes one pump and they're up, they feel good. Okay, battery is on and emergency pump is on. Looking for a fuel pressure to build. Fuel pressure is good, it's up to 17 pounds. And we hit the starter now. And we're counting the blades as they go by. We want to go 9 blades before we turn the mags on. Okay, there's 9 blades, mags on. And there it's starting to fire, and now they're firing. We're going to advance the mixture control. Engine running smoothly with the throttle. There we go, about 900 RPM. We'll turn our electric pump off, check our oil pressure and our fuel pressure, and it's up. Our fuel pressure is still maintaining 19 psi, so we're warming the engine up at 1,000 RPM or less while it's cold. And we can see the airplane's to life now. Okay, we're going to swing the wings out now, and because of the design of the wings, make sure nobody is standing on the fuselage, because the wings come real close to the fuselage. So here we go with the wing spread. We're selecting spread. You can see here they come. And then we have a safety lock here. You just turn a manual T-bar in there and it drives the manual pins into the hydraulic cylinders, and we have little flags to indicate that they're down. Okay, wings are spread and we're really ready to taxi. Airplane is real easy to taxi. It's got because it's so heavy, and the landing gear is a nice wide stance. You know, it does track pretty well straight ahead, and it's got nice, soft, and even brakes. Great visibility too. The airplane, being a tail dragger, you can see over the nose, which is unusual for a lot of these Warbirds, as you know. Give a Corsair or a Mustang or a B-40, you know, any of those kind of planes are really hard to see straight ahead. But this airplane, the attitude it sits at, it's typical of a lot of the Grummets, like the Hellcat. It has that sloping nose. The Avenger runs a right cycle in R2600. It's 1900 horsepower, 14-cylinder, double row radial. This uprated version from the B25 engine is rated at 1900 horsepower. The airplane, by design, the structure too is real strong build aircraft. It's not designed for aerobatics though, and their G limits are only 4 Gs. Gross weight of the airplane at 18,000 pounds is the uprated version. What we're riding in today, the the General Motors version of it. After operational considerations, the first ones were using as dive bombers and heavy G pullouts. They had some wing failures operationally, but they changed their techniques in operation of the airplane, and really proved to be a reliable airplane. Okay, bring her to a stop, get ready for the run up here. Flight controls, full and free travel. And our oil temperature now has just reached 40 degrees centigrade, so we're in good shape to do a run up here. So we're going to put the mixture rich, stick aft, and run the airplane up to 1700 RPM. 1700, we're just feeling for the engine, feel how it runs. Generator's online, everything looks good. Now we're going to cycle the propeller, pull the handle back, drop it down 300 or 400 RPM the first time. Oil pressure's nice and steady, engine feels strong. Probably be a little nicer with the canopy closed. Yeah, Avenger 7835 Charlie 21, ready to go, left turnout.
Avenger 35 Charlie, Chino Tower, runway 21, clear for takeoff, wind calm, and a left turnout through, sir.
35 Charlie, thanks. Turn the corner here, lock the tail wheel, feel the lock. Now we advance the throttle. There's 30 inches, 35. We're just going to come off at 40. Now we're airborne. Gear up. Back to 2,440 inches. Back to 35 inches now. And then back to 2,300. We're going to use that for climb. A little trim going, 130 knots and accelerating. We're out of 1,000 feet. Now we're using our cruise climb here, 2,132 inches. The Avenger, the control pressures require trimming all the time, and we're always trimming. In fact, the airplane and the pitch and yaw category are very subject, very sensitive to airspeed changes. We're going to switch over to our center tank now. Fuel pressure's good. Now we're on center tank, 120 gallons in that tank right at the moment. That won't last very long. It's like we mentioned with the earlier, the airplane is like a hands-off airplane. You can sit here for a long time and never touch it. It's really stable. Makes a great instrument airplane. In fact, that was one of the things they were known for, is flying long distances. The airplane, the cockpit's real roomy, and it had a map case which you could slide out, or a chart case, I should say, where you can map your course on it. We're right out of 3,500 feet now, climbing. Pretty nice day today. And we're just now leveling right here at 5,000 feet. We're going to come back to a low cruise power setting with a couple little maneuvers here. Let the machine kind of stabilize itself here. Close the cow flap. Head temps are below 200. Mixture back in auto lean. No change in noise in the engine, so everything's feeling good. Okay, 2 hands on the stick. You can see the rate of roll. It requires a lot of force. We're not allowed to go more than, we're not allowed to go full deflection of the ailerons above 200 knots by copy of the handbook. Real heavy in pitch. Heavy in yaw. Heavy on the ailerons. Okay, we're on an eastbound heading right here. We're going to just throttle back to 20 inches. And we'll do a nice clean stall. With a change in airspeed, the pitch trim gets extremely heavy here right now, but I'm not going to trim it because you have the reverse effect. With the gain of airspeed again, it'll be way out of trim. So here we're 80 knots. Now we're just going to close the throttle, a little bit of right rudder. Now the stick is coming almost to my gut here. There's 75, right there it falls. Typical Navy wing. The Hellcat course there, they all kind of stall the same. They have a quick little nibble and then a break. Okay, we're going to dirty it up now. Gear going down. 5, a count of about 6, and the gear's down to lock. Okay, flaps coming to full. We'll just use just a little bit of power. We won't go to idle on this one. And it paid off at about 73 last time. Anytime you do dirty stalls with the flaps, we don't want to get the nose too high. We're looking for about 1 knot a second deceleration. There's 70 knots. Bunch of right rudder to hold the nose. That's because P factor on the propeller or torque. 68 knots indicated.
Boom, there we go, a little stall in the full right rudder there, and it's coming back finally. Okay, flaps coming up, gear coming up. And nice and easily we'll add power up to 20 inches, let it run there a minute. Then we'll advance it back up to cruise. Watching how this thing maneuvers, you can imagine why the guys called it a turkey. It's affectionately known as a turkey, though. It's black-hearted against aerobatic maneuvers. We can do wing overs and diving maneuvers without exceeding the G limits or the airspeed structural limitations. Another interesting thing about the Avenger, because of the low aspect ratio of the wing area, it actually built speed quite a bit on the descent from altitude going cross country. When you start your descent to your return airport, it'll go right up to 200 knots with a very low rate of descent. You got to pull the power back pretty good to get it to come down unless you want to go fast.
With a range of over 1,000 miles, the Avenger was the master of the Pacific during World War II. Easy to fly, an excellent bombing or torpedo platform, a multiple crew to get the job done, easy to bring back aboard a ship, rugged. Traits many considered standard issue from Grumman Aircraft Company. Like the B-17, the Avenger did every job assigned to it with excellence. That's because there were no surprises for the pilots who flew this excellent torpedo bomber. To those young pilots, the Avenger was more than a weapon, it was a trusted friend. See you next time when we'll go flying another Roaring Glory Warbird. Today we're going to take you to 10,000 feet and dive through hails of anti-aircraft fire for one of the deadliest bombing runs of World War II. Climb aboard the TBM Avenger. This sturdy, compact torpedo bomber carried thousands of pilots and one former president safely through the war. Welcome to another episode of The Young Pilots. Growing up in Columbia, Missouri, young Harry Badger Owl never imagined that someday he'd be at the controls of the Navy's TBM Avenger, dropping bombs through hails of anti-aircraft fire and sinking 100-ton warships. A 7-ton, fat-bodied torpedo bomber, the Avenger, participated in every major battle of the Pacific Fleet from 1943 on, and along with dive bombers was responsible for destroying both of the world's largest battleships, the Masushi and the Yamamoto. At the outset of World War II, the combined attack of dive bombers and torpedo planes demonstrated a strike power that reached far beyond that of the traditional warship battle lines. With the arrival of the TBM Avenger and other American aircraft, carrier-based attack planes sank 6 of 10 Japanese battleships, 11 of 15 carriers, and 10 of their 14 heavy cruisers lost during the war. And as Harry Badgerow recounts for us today, these air weapons would ultimately destroy the Japanese Navy and virtually end the era of the battleship.
In 1941, I was a senior at the University of Missouri. It was just before Pearl Harbor when the Navy recruiting team came in with their Navy flyers and flashy uniforms and kind of, well, dive-bombed the campus.
Oh, yeah. Interested in the Navy? We're looking for some pilots.
Don't know.
Haven't thought of it? What are you going to do with your future? Navy's a good choice. It's a good career. If you choose to stay in, go officer, and graduate out of college, you get your O rating right there. From there on, you go into flight school. It's pretty
Interesting. I was thinking about
Interesting.
going into law enforcement, Navy.
Law enforcement. Well, you know, that's not a bad deal, except, I mean, you look at these planes, this is some high-speed stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it makes your Ford look slow, I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. They struck a direct hit with my roommate, Warren Willover. He came home all jazzed up to convince me the two of us just had to be Navy flyers.
And, you know, like, not everyone's going to make it, but if you come into our training program and you succeed, then you'll have great opportunity for the rest of your life.
You buddy?
No, the pilot just said that only a few men can get into the program.
I'm not sure I want in.
You're kidding me.
He argued his case like Clarence Darrow and must have been pretty persuasive,
They're gonna need
because
pilots.
before I knew it,
Are you sure you want to be a pilot?
You're darn tootin' I want to be a pilot. Where else can you make $150 a week?
the two of us were hitchhiking to St. Louis. Oh, here we go, right here, right here. Oh, come on, baby. Please. Hello! We're going as far towards St. Louis as you can bring us. Yeah? Oh, great. Hop in, man. Upon arrival, we were given physical exams and both passed with flying colors. After that, Warren and I were sent separate ways and in the chaos of World War lost track of each other. However, years later, we met up again and Warren, true to his form, was still arguing his case. He'd become a Missouri State Supreme Court judge. I began training as a Navy pilot in June of 1941. 13 months later, I was commissioned, became an ensign, and given my wings. In the meantime, Pearl Harbor had been attacked and they needed naval aviators very badly. So I became a flight instructor. Took kids right out of college, gave them their first solo flights and basic training. Basically taking a cadet and making a polished flyer out of them. I did that for 13 months. We were flying little Stearmans and T-6s. We went to Hyannis, Massachusetts and Fort Lauderdale for torpedo training. We'd go out with dummies. They'd have dye in them so you could actually see the path of the torpedo. In Florida, we formed our TBM squadron, and under the leadership of our commander, Lawrence Steffenhagen, we learned how to lay mines from the plane, how to skip bomb, as well as basics like formation flying in our big TBMs. After 9 months of continuous training, Air Group 86 went aboard the USS Wasp on the 13th of March in 1945. Our carrier held 3,000 men, which may seem like a lot, but that's what it took to keep 150 airplanes fighting in the air. It's like an airport and a naval base all rolled into one. From there, it was one long boat ride. You know, being pilots, most of us weren't used to being on a ship, and some of us got pretty sick. We'd get some high seas, and we even got caught in a typhoon once. It dug the nose of this big carrier, and it peeled back a little the deck, but we flew anyway. We were aboard from March 14th to August 25th and flying every day of the week. At the time of my first combat mission, I was 23. It was the 14th of March, 1945. We had our air and ship's gunnery exercises throughout the day, then launched our night fighters for training flights. Operational losses, 1 water landing and 1 takeoff crash. But luckily, both pilots were picked up by nearby vessels. On an almost daily basis, we go on search and destroy missions and try to find factories or strafe railroads, anything that we thought had military value. We had an air group commander who flew above all of us in a fighter. Our skipper would usually signal us with his hands. Sometimes he'd get on the air, but we try to keep off the radio because the enemy would home in on that. But we talked enough in the briefing before to know where the target was before we left. The skipper would then peel us off one by one, and we'd all get into a straight dive, 10,000 feet down. We did our best to limit our radio contact from ship to ship, but I kept in constant contact with my crew on the intercom.
Rookie, how we looking back there?
Great. Nothing but rice paddies.
The turret gun had a beautiful view all around, and he could rotate that turret. The turret gunner was headed the other way from me, so he could tell me where the fighters were coming in, what distance they're coming from and from what direction. On the 17th of March, we started a run-in on Kyushu. When we'd be in the air, we were always escorted by fighters, the TBM being slower. But there were times when my tail gunner, Norma Burrow, would spot enemy fighters, and of course, we'd all take a shot at them.
2 on our 9 o'clock.
Can you get him?
Negative. We're too high.
Hold on.
I'm gonna lose my lunch.
Okay, kid, they're in range now.
Oh boy.
Now, our air group was made up of 4 different planes. F-6F Hellcats, F-4U Corsairs, SBD dive bombers, and the TBM Avengers, and we were all aboard the Wasp. We kept 15 planes operating each time we had a strike. Toward the end of the war, since the Japanese bottled their fleet up, our biggest concern became the kamikazes. I'll never forget this one day. We lost a lot of planes. That anti-aircraft was so heavy. I was in the air when a kamikaze hit the Wasp. He dropped an armor-piercing shell through the deck of the carrier and had gone down into the bowels of the ship and exploded.
You see the deck? It's on fire, man.
When I got out, one of the people jumped up and said, "Boy, were you lucky you were in the air." Of course, I didn't feel too lucky for going through the hell I just gone through on my mission. Then I found out some 300 men had been killed aboard, many of them my mates who'd been alongside me in the ready room. So I guess I was fortunate to be in the air. As for landing on a carrier, every carrier landing was a close call. When we weren't in combat, it seemed like the skipper had us in the air practicing the whole time. Yeah, I think we actually lost more pilots and planes in practice runs than we did in combat. When I started training in the TBM, I was assigned a gunner and a radio man, both enlisted men, and we trained as a team. We were together for over a year, and they flew with me always. Neither of them was a pilot, as most of the pilots had to be college graduates, and my crewmates, well, they were just young 17 and 18-year-old kids who probably just enlisted into the Navy and by chance ended up assigned to the TBM. I had never really thought much about the fact that as a pilot, I was an officer. But the thing is, you had to have discipline in the service, because without discipline, it just fell apart. And at the time, they were very officer conscious. We ate every night on tablecloths, and they had enlisted men serving us. You know, officers really did have rank. Now, my enlisted men, we became good friends. I never did hang much on that rank thing. I mean, we were out there to fight a war, and we were teammates. But that wasn't the case with my one buddy, Frank Fonda. One day in the heat of combat, Frank's gunner looked up. He saw a Japanese plane coming right for him. He shouted out.
Hey, Frank, there's a plane coming right at us.
But before he could finish, Frank cut him off.
Sailor, that's Lieutenant Conrad.
Well, that's discipline, I guess. We kidded him about it, but I don't think that gunner ever did call him Frank after that. I can remember another time we were in training on the island of Maui, waiting for the Wasp to be ready. It was the middle of the night, and I was awakened in the officers' quarters by some sailor.
Sir, your gunner and navigator, they're in the Kahului jail.
So I got a Jeep, went into town, and bailed out my crew. See, being an officer, I could do that. I made them hide under a piece of canvas and got them back into the base. Kind of saved their butts. They kind of liked the bars a little bit too much, I think. Pilot's log, 28th of July. Operate in George Love area. Launch strike to Cure Harbor and sweeps to Yamogo and Tampici and Hansini airfields.
Still all clear back here.
Our mission to destroy enemy aircraft and ships. That's the day I sunk the Japanese cruiser Oyota. Our mission would be about a 4-hour run. 2 hours to the island of Japan, 2 hours back, with about 4 or 5 minutes of life or death combat in between. We took off with all the other aircraft carriers and we went in. The Japanese Navy was trying to save their fleet. They thought they had them hidden. But we did find them.
Where are we, Junior?
Sir, that ADL right off our 4 o'clock. That should be it. I don't know, it doesn't have a name, sir. I think it's part of the Ulysses group, sir.
Okay, kid, I'm not planning to put us down in a Jap airstrip, so forget looking at island names.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I do want you to get us back to our carrier, right?
Yes, sir. You know what? As a matter of fact, I have it. I have a perfect fix on it, sir, right here.
You positive?
Sure do. I mean, affirmative, sir.
And call me Harry. Just get us home.
Sure will, sir.
With the different carriers, there were probably 150 of us when we all made our dive. We came in at 10,000 feet, saw the harbor. Then you'd see the anti-aircraft fire. It was so thick you could walk on it. I was carrying 4 500-pound bombs in the Bombay.
Fasten your seatbelt, kid.
Then the skipper gave the signal, we all went in and dived. And depending on where it starts, it's not going to take more than 3 or 4 minutes. You're in your dive, you find your target, you jettison your bombs, and then you pull out. I went into a dive. Every plane in the dive was picking out targets. I found this one. It was a light cruiser, and I zeroed in on it. As soon as I got a clear shot, I dropped my 4 500-pound bombs. Quite a few of our planes didn't come back during that strike. It was because the anti-aircraft fire was so heavy and deadly. After I pulled out, well, those of us who had made it out rendezvoused and headed back to the carrier. Yeah, at the time I wasn't thinking about it, but I had a gun camera on board which was recording what I'd done. Later it was found that the Toyota was sinking, so I knew I'd hit it. Turned out to be the one I got the air medal for. We went on a few more missions, and then on August 15th we were in the air on our way to Japan when suddenly a call came over our radio. Ceased the offense against the Japanese Empire. Just like that. So we dropped down, jettisoned our bombs into the water, and flew back. When we landed on board the carrier, an intelligence officer told us the war was over. Let me tell you, it was some good news. When our ships pulled into the mainland, everyone was celebrating. The war was over. They knew their boys were coming home. It was quite a memorable time.
You could put it into a dive and drop those 500-pound bombs, and that was a lot of firepower. The Avenger was slow, but Grumman had built it for strength. It could take hard landings, take a lot of anti-aircraft fire, and it was just plain durable, steady, and dependable. For those who'd entrusted their lives in it, they wouldn't have flown anything else. After the war was over, Lieutenant Harry Badgerow, like so many others, was ready to get out. He'd had his fill of near-miss carrier landings and takeoffs, had lost too many good friends, and had been shot at enough. What he wanted most of all was to find out what America in peacetime was really like. So we'll see you next time for more exciting true stories of the young pilots.